Hello everyone, this is Moehawkman and welcome to another episode of 30 Hours. And this one is all about playing Big Game Hunter, or BGH for short. I'll be upfront here, if you don't care about all the random mumbo jumbo I put in these videos, go right ahead and skip to the end to see the price checks. The GP per hour for playing BGH can be anywhere between 4 to 12 million GP per hour. The reason why this number has such a large gap between the minimum and the maximum is that it's highly dependent on luck, and I will go into more detail later. The minimum level to play BGH is 75 Hunter and 55 Slayer. If you want to hunt all tier 3 dinosaurs, you will need 96 Hunter and 76 Slayer. For my gear, I'm wearing full Sentinel outfit for the woodcutting bonuses, Grace of the Elves and Luck of the Dwarves combo for the Saren spirits, and Brooch of the Gods for divine blessings. I'm also wearing my max cape with the Slayer cape teleport so I can get to tier 2 dinos faster. Lastly, I'm using my crystal axe augmented with Hone 6 and Refined 4, which increases my chances of getting logs and resources not being drained. In my inventory, I always bring a small stack of frog repellent for just in case situations where the first kill of the instance is either a duo or a trio. For my relics, I'm using Death Note for the bone drops, Shadow's Grace for the 50% cooldown reduction on Surge and Bladed Dive. The third relic power doesn't really matter, but you can use Inspire Love for extra Slayer experience, or Inspire Effort for extra woodcutting and hunter experience. I must say here that I only unlocked Double Surge but not Bladed Dive. If you don't have either unlocked, it's fine. You can still play BGH, but it's just more annoying to do it without them. I speak from experience because I did exactly this for my first 800 kills or so. I only had one surge and no mobile perk and still managed just fine. So what is Big Game Hunter? It's a skilling based activity that revolves around getting resources to build traps and baiting the dinosaur into the trap to kill it. Rinse and repeat until you scare away the dinosaur and then move on to the next one. It sounds simple enough, but more goes into this than you would think. There are three main mechanics that you need to keep an eye on. The first mechanic revolves around the dinosaur roars. It will stop moving for a few seconds, do its roar animation, and begin moving in the opposite direction. The second mechanic is when diseased Jidinkos will show up. The dinosaur will make a straight beeline for the Jidinkos, eat them, and continue its loop in the same direction it was originally moving. If it was going clockwise, it will retain that direction and vice versa on counterclockwise. There are times where these two mechanics will happen one after another. It will eat the Jijinkos and then move in the opposite direction, or vice versa. Sometimes the animation will bug out and doesn't show the dino doing the roar, so you will need to pay attention just in case this happens. The last mechanic is that the dino will have a circle around it at all times, and you must avoid staying in the circle too long or else the dino will force you away. You must also avoid being in the direct path of the dino because you will be stunned if you get stepped on. While avoiding the dino, you will need to chop 7 logs and 3 vines. Of the 7 logs you chop, you will need to fletch 3 of them into spears and then coat them with poison from any of the 3 frogs you see on the map. I only have 2 frogs visible because I have the tier 3 hunting lodge upgrade that automatically removes 1 frog. After you coat the spears with the poison, you must now build the 3 scorpion traps and load the spears into the traps. Once done with that, you must now clear the bait pad in the center and put down the bait. A cutscene will play, and it will show the dinosaur eating the bait and being shot by the traps. Depending on the poison spears you use, you will see one of 3 damage numbers, 7.5k, 15k, or 30k. It will also be color coded to the poison type you choose. Personally, I skipped the cutscene because the numbers will just be posted in the chat anyway, and you can just read it there. If you manage to find the frog that does 30k damage, make more spears and coat them in that poison. For the rest of the encounters, that poison will one-shot the dino every time until you scare it away. If you fail to find the 30k damage frog, the dino will destroy one of your traps after the cutscene, and you will likely need to rebuild it if the dino has too much HP remaining. You will also need to use another bait to finish off the kill. Once you complete the kill, you can loot the body and start another encounter. Make sure you have space in your backpack because any extra loot will be dropped on the floor. This is why I use the Death Note relic to save space from all the bone drops. Now I will explain my strategies when I do BGH. My first method is for solos and my second method is for duos and trios. Whenever I start a new encounter, I always check to see what I'm dealing with. Even though it doesn't happen often, sometimes your first encounter of a new dino can be a duo or a trio. But majority of the time, it will be a solo dino. If the dino is solo, I start chopping at least 8 logs and at least 4 vines, and then I make 3 spears and 50-50 between the 2 frogs that I have on the map, and pray I can one-shot the dino on the first try. If this doesn't kill, I gather enough resources needed to finish off the kill. After the first kill, I like to gather enough resources for the remaining kills under the assumption that they are all solo kills. So I'll get 15 more spears and coat them in poison whenever the frogs regen. Now I never like to use my frog repellent on solo starters because I don't have enough hunter points to sustain using repellents for every new instance. My second strategy is for whenever I have a duo or a trio as the first encounter. I will always use my frog repellent to save both time and bait. I start by chopping a full inventory of logs, make 21 spears, and start coating them in the poison, and then I go get more logs and vines for the traps in the bait pad. Then I just play the rest of the encounters like normal, while trying not to get caught doing the duos and trios, which is harder than it looks. There's a bit of overlap when the dinos converge on the center, and you have to surge in and out constantly. Build part of the trap, and then go out, and then go back in once the surge cooldown has been reset. It's annoying to do, but I've learned that it's better to get a longer guaranteed kill over trying to risk it for a slightly faster kill time. Let's move on to the loot. I think the loot pool needs to be updated quite a bit. There's too many garbage drops in the table now that just tank the GP per hour. The herbs aren't enough to make up for some of the cost and the time investment, and the seeds are absolutely trash. And you'll see what I'm talking about in the price check. Now when it comes to the rest of the loot pool, I had really weird luck. I mainly hunted tier 2 and tier 3 dinos due to their higher upside, and the chance of getting a pterosaur maul piece, which only drops from tier 3 dinos. As crazy as it sounds, I ended up getting all 3 pieces of the maul, which has a 1 in 1000 drop rate on solo kills. On the flip side, I ended up only getting 2 dragon matics. Think about that for a second. I got 3 of the rarest drops from BGH, but only got 2 matics that has a drop rate of 1 in 101. Now I do need to mention something about the GP per hour doing BGH. If you hunt from tier 1 all the way to tier 3 using the meat as bait without paying for it, you actually lose GP per hour. This is why the low end is around 4 to 5 mil per hour. In reality, the best way to make money from BGH is to hunt only tier 2 dinos and buy the tier 1 meat off the Grand Exchange instead of hunting it yourself. Doing this can easily double your GP per hour if you get lucky with enough duos and trios spawning in. Keep in mind that this doesn't even account for any of the other drops. Let me run some of the numbers for you. BGH has a mechanic in place that will always get you either 5 or 6 encounters per instance. Using these numbers, I can estimate your GP per hour more accurately. Let's assume you run all tier 2 dinos and get exactly 5 solo encounters and they each drop 1 piece of meat. Spaghetti Apatosaur meat is worth around 319k each, so 5 would be around 1.6 mil. Asiatops meat is around 198k each, so it's about 1 mil. And Corbucola meat is worth around 373k each, totaling 1.8 mil. Adding all of those together, you get around 4.4 million GP per hour. With 6 solo encounters, you can make around 5.3 million GP per hour. Keep in mind that each dino has a chance to drop 2 pieces of meat. If you get lucky and every single dino drops 2 meat, your GP per hour is instantly doubled. Now you will need to take out 1 million GP to cover the cost of the bait if you buy it off the Grand Exchange, but you still make good profit. Also remember that these numbers don't consider you getting any duos or trios, which can give you 2 times and 3 times extra drops depending on your luck. For example, if you get 1 random duo or trio in the entire set of tier 2 dinos, you could potentially get 6 to 12 more meat and boost your GP per hour even further. Now let's move on to what you've really been wanting to know, the price check. Now I'm going to be splitting this into 3 separate price checks because I can't figure out how to expand the window to show it all at once. The first one totals just over 15 million GP. It's all the grimy herbs, Grenwall spikes, dragon hides, and the 3 types of gems you can get. Majority of the price check comes from the spikes, hides, and uncut dragon stones. The herbs aren't worth anything and don't even make 1 mil GP total. The next price check totals just over 13 mil, which is all the fish and seed drops. The most surprising thing is the Arbok seeds being worth nearly 10 mil of the price check. Almost every other seed is worthless, and I really hope Jagex removes them from the drop table in the future. And here is the big price check. This one has all the dino bones, the dino hides, scales, adamant salvage, unchecked dinos, and the tier 3 meat totaling just over 130 mil GP. The bones and the meat were worth the most, combining for over 101 million GP just from those 4 items alone. The hides were worth 15 mil, and I have all the damage hides in my inventory, which can be alked for 5k each, so it's just over 2.5 mil there. When I add all the previous price checks together, it comes out to 160 mil GP, averaging to 5.3 mil GP per hour. Now if I put in the rare drops, it adds nearly 400 million GP, and it would have boosted my GP per hour to over 18 million, and you can kinda see why I decided against adding them in. Now I can't honestly say for certain how good or bad your luck will be if you decide to do BGH, but I can certainly say that the game will reward you eventually if you stick with it. Just remember to only do tier 2 dinos and sell everything you get, and you'll make way more GP per hour than I did in this video. Anyways, that's all from me today. Be kind to one another, stay safe, have a nice day. Peace out everyone.